Craptocurrency podcast presented by Crypto Finder. HODL That Thought will guide you through the crazy world that is cryptocurrency, as seen through the short-sighted eyes of your hosts Mark, Adam and Liz. Read our disclaimer, understand our approach, and then sit back and enjoy our podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to HODL That Thought, your podcast about Bitcoin, the blockchain, and everything in between. And sitting in between those two spectrums right now is Liz Berry, who we're welcoming back after her long absence.
Wasn't that long. Did it feel long?
It felt like an eternity.
Oh, that's
like
so
an absolute
nice.
eternity. How was your trip? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was thinking about Bitcoin the entire time, I swear.
Of course you were.
What else does one do in New York?
Yeah. So where all did you go? What all did you do?
Well, I spent 10 days in New York, and then I spent 3 days in Florida, so it was nice and warm.
Ah, yes, Florida, my old stomping grounds.
Yeah, just alligators everywhere.
Yeah. Did you see any?
No, but when we were on the way back to the airport, our taxi driver was like, "Oh yeah, there's alligators in there. There's alligators in there.
Oh yeah,
there's alligators in
there.
there.
Everywhere.
It's like the taxi drivers in Sydney driving my friends there. But yeah, there's kangaroos behind that building.
No, but in this case, they're serious.
Yeah,
like,
I
they
really
really are.
wanted to see
They're
some.
all over the place. I had the house I lived in when I was a teenager. We had a tiny little pond out back, and this is just in a very suburban area, and we had a 6-foot gator in there.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So instead of a goldfish.
We had a gator.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's amazing.
There was goldfish, but he ate them all.
Yeah. But anyway, we're glad to have you back.
Glad to be back, guys.
Richard kept your seat warm. I hope it's still
Creepy.
I hope his ass warmth is lingering.
Oh, it does. It's a lingerer.
Liz is like, I thought this chair felt suspiciously warm.
Note to self, burn this chair off.
So look, let's jump right into it. Let's hit up some news from the week.
I'm Graham, by the way. Adam forgot.
Oh yeah. Who are you again?
Insignificant Graham.
Just because I'm on this side of the desk unusually, so you're kind of like...
Yeah, I know. It's like out of sight, out of mind. I have no peripheral vision. All right, so let's jump into some news. It's moving the needle. One of the things we know about mining crypto is that it takes up a lot of energy, and a lot of infrastructure needs to be built for it, right? Bitcoin miners in Iceland have eaten up nearly as much energy as all of the country's households combined, right? However, it looks like they're going to be giving something back, albeit perhaps unintentionally. Iceland is kind of betting on cryptocurrency being a fad, right? And so what they're thinking is that they are going to use the infrastructure created by cryptocurrency to become new technology incubators, right? I'm not even gonna. Johan Snorri Sigurbergsson.
I'm so happy you tried.
Thank you. Who's a business development manager, one of the power plants in Iceland, says Bitcoin probably won't be here far into the future, and that's the bet we're making, right? So what they want to do is repurpose all this technology for things like self-driving cars, for things like deep learning applications, automatic translators, basically use it to power new tech that will build the country's infrastructure. So
what happens if the bet doesn't pan out?
Well, I guess they're screwed.
The whole country.
You're talking about like blockchain technology they're trying to utilize for other...
Or is it
the
mining technology?
It's not it's the power.
The processing power.
Yeah.
Ah.
Wow. That's a really big bet for the whole country to make.
It's a huge bet. It's a really huge bet. So
you could just use Iceland to run like the world's most amazing ever computer game potentially.
Ooh,
With
like we could have
ultra slick VR,
an even better World of Warcraft experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Slightly more facial detail on the orcs. Like you can really see their pores.
Yeah, or maybe better money spent making it when she passes away. You could make a new completely synthetic Bjork.
Oh man. See,
Using
that's
all
the
that
thing is
processing
we are going to need another Bjork because
Definitely.
when God forbid, when that day comes, I don't like to think about it. I don't know about you guys, but there are times I lie awake at night just thinking, is Bjork okay? But when that day comes, as we know, sadly it will, the world is going to be in Bjork deficit. So,
and we can utilize the processing power of the whole of Iceland.
Thank God. Honestly, I'll probably get the first good night's sleep I've had in ages tonight. Great.
I mean, it depends on how highly developed the processing power is. It might only be able to synthesize the visuals. We might have to get like Shuros to do the vocals or something of the new Bjork.
Did you ever see that? I hate Family Guy, but every so often they accidentally stumble upon something really hilarious. They had it was supposed to be a game show. It was Bobcat or Bjork, and you had to tell if something was comedian Bobcat Goldthwait or Bjork singing.
Oh God! I can't believe we've never talked about Bjork on these podcasts.
I know. Like, let's pivot to Bjork.
When she first came out, no one had told me that you don't pronounce the J, and I kept saying Bjork.
Bjork. Oh wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
And I said she was on like a festival lineup, and I was like, "We're gonna see Bjork." And someone was like, "It's Bjork," and I was like, "I know."
I was joking, obviously.
Obviously,
I was like that with Avril Lavigne. I was calling her Avril Lavigne.
So yeah, this
not the caliber of Bjork though. There, obviously, Bjork is
oh god
a step above.
Yeah. Oh. Jeez, Bjork is a treasure. So that's because, as you know, this is the podcast about Bitcoin, Bjork, blockchain, and everything in between.
Mostly Icelandic treasures.
That's right.
Who's going next?
Mine's pretty good. So
Go.
No, it's just basic. No, so Forbes. I don't want to set it up too much.
You'll throw it back there fairly quickly, Liz. I was expecting big things, and now...
Well, I just thought about it. I was like,
too much pressure.
No, look, it actually is. It's interesting. I found it interesting. So Forbes has curated a list of the richest people in cryptocurrency.
Where's Fred?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Fred Sebesta. Where's he on the list? Where's he go?
Right at the top. No, so what I found interesting is where these people are located. So I actually thought most of them wouldn't be in the US. I'm not sure why, but pretty much 9 out of the top 10 were in the US and Canada. And only 1 out of the top 10 was in China.
Where do you put Satoshi Nakamoto on that list? That's the thing. Is like... Because
he could be any of them in theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he wasn't on there because they don't know who he was,
or if he's an actual single person.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but he would, if you put Satoshi Nakamoto in the in the mix with that, you'd have to think he'd come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to. Well, that's the thing. But if it is a group of people, then like how do you split it and everything like that? But
yeah, well,
the list did note that these have to be just estimates.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I pretty definitively proved in a previous podcast that Satoshi Nakamoto was Abraham Lincoln. So
I've just come up with a brand new hot take theory on that actually.
Oh really?
Oh, yeah. I love a good hot take.
Hot take. Satoshi Nakamoto is Banksy.
Oh wow!
That's
there you
great.
go.
And that's it.
Biggest
I love
mystery
that
person
because
in the world.
it's like an Ouroboros, the snake that eats itself. It's like, who is Banksy? Satoshi Nakamoto. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Banksy. I love it.
Something else I found. So wait, I'll tell you like some of the numbers. Well, actually, do you guys want to guess how much like the top guy on the list? Because all of them are men. The top 10, all of them are men. No women on the list. Not a huge surprise there, a bit disappointing. But anyway, so it's ranked in billions of dollars. So what is the top ranking cryptocurrency holder? How many billions of dollars in cryptocurrency does he hold?
I'd rather not guess.
Do you want to guess?
I'm gonna say
I'm not giving you a choice, so you have to guess.
Is it in the kind of 20s or is it like I'm gonna go $7 billion.
Okay.
$100 billion.
It's pretty much in between.
Oh.
So the top guy is Chris Larson. He's from America. He's 57 years old. And he... Oh, no, wait. I read that wrong. No, wait. It's around where Graham said. So it's 7.5 billion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
7.5
I way
billion
overshot the mark.
with a B.
Yeah, I thought it actually said 75 billion, but it's 7.5.
75 billion.
So it's 7. But the funny
That's
thing
still a
is,
lot of money.
the thing is, I didn't even blink my eyes at that. I was like, yeah, that's about right. Because it's it's cryptocurrency.
Yeah, well, there's a
Crazy
thing like
amounts.
with numbers that whether there's a B or an M in front of the beginning of it, people don't tend to be able to tell. There's a kind of science communication philosophy whereby if you're trying to explain a number to somebody and explain the impact of it, and if you add a 0 and you explain it with the extra 0 and they don't have any different reaction, then you haven't explained the number properly the first time. You haven't explained the impact of it. If you do 10 times bigger, billion, million, people generally find it difficult to kind of conceive what the difference is there.
I feel like I can conceive of the difference because in the Sydney housing markets, $7.5 million would buy you 6 houses. $7.5 billion.
6 houses. Where are you trying to buy houses?
Maybe apartments.
Maybe in Newcastle.
Okay, 6 apartments.
6 one-bedroom apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$7.5 billion.
Or one
would
house
buy
in
you
like Manly.
6,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think that's where it gets me.
if you
Like-
think in terms of property.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
like
why it's very
Monopoly
important that you
houses.
pick a very clear font.
All right, Graham, what you got for
So
us?
mine, I feel a little bit bad this week. Well, first of all, I feel a little bit weird this week because I was telling you earlier, I've been to my first ever personal training session in the gym this morning. So bits of me are tired that I never knew existed, I have never used before. So I feel a little bit out of sorts. But
Your
secondly...
spleen. Is your spleen taken?
Adam,
Wouldn't
I
even
think
know
you're
what that feels
exercising
like.
wrong.
I'm telling you, if you don't hit the spleen, that's your core right there. Like you got to work the spleen if you want a strong core.
Look, the spleen, keep it mean. I don't know. It's not really. The second reason I feel bad, right, is because Liz, I know I nicked your story this week.
Yeah.
I know you saw this one. No, I didn't know you saw this until after I put it up in the doc where we put up our stories. But,
Yeah, so
something happened to me a couple of weeks ago where that happened, and I was like, that was quite annoying. So I feel
So we have an
bad.
online chat system that we chat in, and I said something really nice, like I was like, oh hi Graham, like thanks Graham for sharing this, like blah blah blah, and then I saw that he stole my story. I was like, I hate you, Graham. It was like all caps.
it didn't take long for the hate of Liz.
I
to
know
go
the
straight
venomous
back in as soon
hatred
as
was
she's
just
back.
right back in.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciated is that you didn't have to ease into it. You just
There's no easing.
hit
here.
the ground running.
Yeah.
So this one was obviously one whoever ever saw it first would have gone for immediately because it involves cryptocurrency and space. So it's news that there's a company called Spacebelt who are investing in a series of low Earth orbit satellites, which are going to kind of orbit the Earth and act as... I was looking at this initially and presuming these satellites are going to act as units to process and mine cryptocurrency, right? Because one of the biggest problems with running processors and doing any sort of calculation as well as mining cryptocurrency is the heat generation from these things, which is why we see so much generation in places like Iceland and cold places, and why it doesn't make any sense to mine cryptocurrency in Australia. So I was presuming it'd be something like that. But when you think about that, processors, looking at Moore's law, processors get twice as powerful every single year. So if you're going to launch processors into space, the cost of upgrading them every single year is completely nuts. I mean, if you look at the first supercomputer that beat the first, what was it, Kasparov? No, what was the first? Kasparov, yeah. Big Blue. Or maybe it was a deviation after Big Blue from IBM. That supercomputer was, the size of a small office and cost, tens of millions of dollars at that time for that amount of processing power. And within a few years, that same amount of processing power was available in a PlayStation 3. So that's how quickly processing moves.
I
putting
just want to
processors in
pause
space,
for a moment and say a PlayStation 3 beat
PlayStation 3.
Gary Kasparov.
Yeah, it was the same amount of processing power as in a PlayStation 3.
What?
Okay, so you heard it here first. Gary Kasparov is some bullshit. All right, go on.
So like if you're going to launch processors into space, they'd be obsolete, before too often. So they're not building this as a processing station in space, but they're building it as a data storage system in space. So the idea is they have all these kind of satellites all orbiting in low Earth orbit. I don't know whether they're geosynchronous, so they're going to hover over the same point on Earth, or whether they're going to kind of travel around the Earth or whatever. They're around the equator anyway. But the idea is it's a storage space for data that's going to be in orbit and completely disconnected from the whole rest of the internet. So it's going to be completely secure. And there's going to be basically no way to hack into it. Where this comes into play for crypto is with cold storage wallets. The biggest problem with cold storage wallets, anything, where you put your crypto data and you just leave it sit there and you don't touch it, is, the potential for them to be hacked, potential for them to be stolen even, but if it's on a satellite in space, and the satellite is not going to be connected in any way to the internet. The only way you can access it is by pointing a satellite dish at the satellite, and then you can kind of directly access it.
Or if you travel into space,
wallet.
and you kind of get like a big net.
I was going to say, you know what this means, guys. We're going to have to break into space.
Amazing.
That's a national treasure movie right there.
Oh, 100%.
To save the Constitution, I'm going to have to break in to space.
It's kind of interesting because, the article I was reading was saying, no matter where you store data in the world at the moment, say you're storing it in Iceland, or you're storing it in Ireland, or you're storing it in Australia, or whatever, you're subject to the rules and regulations of that area. It's way too expensive to store data, say, in the open seas where there's none of that regulation. But if your data's stored in space, no country's going to be able to subpoena you to give up that data,
No
so it's
man's
going
laws
to be,
apply in
people will have complete control over the data. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't
That's
know.
why people have, that's why they wager on knife fights in space. Because there's no laws. You can go up there, gambling's fine, knife fighting is just fine. So, that's why it's so common to hear about the rich and powerful having these space yacht parties where they hold knife fights between.
So I kind of want to see UFC in space now. Zero gravity UFC.
Yeah, no
Conor
rules.
McGregor. Conor McGregor probably still
rules.
dominate. I don't know. Could be maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
Well,
Never
Conor
go to
McGregor-
space without a knife.
That's right. Conor McGregor wouldn't have even gotten in trouble if he'd done all that crazy shit in space, because there's no rules up there.
Interestingly, a further evolution from this, the thinking about this system. So this company launched, right, and they were going to have the ability to store data in space. Within no time at all, their doors were being knocked down by crypto companies. And now 80% of their inquiries for actual use of the system when it becomes live is from crypto companies. So there's a huge demand there. But as a further evolution from the thinking, they're also saying in the article it might not be necessary to store all the raw data you want to keep securely in space, because obviously, there's going to be a limited amount of physical storage space. What you could do instead is just store your crypto keys in space, and then there'd be no way to unlock the data. The crypto key, the way that you unlock your actual encrypted data would be stored in securely, and your data will be fine.
What do you do when you need to get it back? Do you have to go to space?
You have to go into your basement and drag out that satellite dish, dust it off, point it at the sky.
But yeah, you get out your astronaut suit.
Exactly. Your homemade rocket. Just
thing's
go.
so heavy.
Just run to grab my Bitcoin real quick, guys.
I just gotta quickly check it. There's just one thing I quickly need to check.
Yeah.
I'll be back in 5
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly. I'm a little light at the moment for this pizza. I'll tell you what, guys. I'm just a real quick trip into space, and I'll be right back.
But that's the thing. The markets move so quickly. So if you really wanted to take advantage of selling it or something like that, it takes so long to actually get your. I don't understand.
I don't
the
think you
lure of
actually
it.
have to go to
Well,
space.
no, the idea is that you have a connection to the
But
wallet
even
that you
going through
control.
the process of getting it, surely it would take a few hours at least.
No, it's the 10 gigabit was the speed of the data connection they had with these satellites.
Oh, okay.
So my internet at home, because internet in Sydney is terrible, is
Yes.
a fraction of that.
Yeah.
So there'd be high speed. You would just have a permanent satellite linked to this hard drive in space, essentially, which only you can access, which is storing your data.
Okay, interesting.
Pretty cool. All right. So what we've learned from this is that we're now planning a thrilling heist in space.
Wait, so you can connect to space quicker than I can connect to the NBN? Is
Hell
that what
yeah.
you're saying?
Yes.
Oh man, that's not cool.
Well, actually, it is really cool.
It is,
It's
guess.
super cool. It's just not cool that we have such garbage internet
Yeah.
here. But
It's so bad here. If
So
you live
bad.
here, you don't even appreciate.
No, I know.
My parents have 10 times the speed for a quarter of the price in Dublin,
Yeah.
and I've had that for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
of what we're only now getting here.
So the free public internet in the US was better than what I'm getting at home, like the speed. The free public internet.
Wow.
It really is a wonderland, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it was a long news section.
Yeah. Very long. So let's cap it off and move on to a bit of laughter, a bit of levity.
Because there hasn't been enough of that yet.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the whole.
They're kind of merging together, the news and the
They really are.
cryptocurrency.
It's all just getting weird.
It's just talking
Yeah,
rubbish
I like
for
it.
half an hour.
That's you.
works for
you
me.
basically just described this podcast. So we'll move on to basically the exact same segment again. It's Craptocurrency. Okay, so if you're an enterprising young kidnapper,
Yes.
as
I'm listening.
Liz's ears perked up. She's like, "You mean I might not have to steal things from space? I could just kidnap someone here on Earth." Apparently, cryptocurrency is looking like the new preferred method of payment for South African kidnappers.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously, because transactions are difficult to monitor, they're difficult to trace, and you don't have to worry about the money being traced or something like that. Last month, kidnappers demanded bitcoins when they kidnapped a 13-year-old boy. They asked for 15 bitcoins, right? Which is a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
15, it's at what, about $7,000 US? It's a lot.
Yeah. You're like, please don't make me do that.
Yeah, it's like 105,000. Is that right, or is it
So it's a lot of money.
1.05 million? Anyway, obviously the transaction must have gone ahead because the kid.
$97,000.
Okay, I was way off. The kid was
So
found
at this rate,
safe
it'll be
later.
worth like 50 tomorrow. And
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The kid was found safe later. It's not known whether the ransom was paid, but it would seem that perhaps. So criminal networks are latching onto this, and there's a Lizette Lancaster, who's from the Institute of Security Studies, said that basically it's almost impossible to track where the money is going. So it seems to be kind of the moving towards the currency of choice for kidnappers. There are a few little hurdles, though. One of them is that people who are victims or the families of the victims might not even know how to make the payment, right? So it's like you not only have to kidnap someone, you then have to explain to them, okay, you need to sign up for this.
Yeah.
How do you get them verified?
That's the thing. You'd have to go through so many hurdles.
Their verification photo would look exactly like the one I did.
100%.
That's exactly. So
should we just replace the pictures of us in the? Oh no! First of all, Mark needs to get off the front of the podcast at this stage.
Yeah.
But maybe we should just replace them with the pictures of us verifying our cryptocurrency accounts.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Sorry, I've interrupted you multiple times. I'll stop.
No, very little of what I have to say is really worth listening to, so it's, that's fine. But the other thing that they didn't mention in this article that is a huge hurdle for any kidnapper is an incensed and righteously angry Mel Gibson. We've seen how this plays out before. So, kidnappers beware.
Well, okay, so mine is slightly different. But we were discussing before about Satoshi Nakamoto and his identity.
You mean Banksy?
Yeah, I mean, apparently. Well, there's been new evidence that has come to light about his supposed identity.
Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, sure. No, it's definitely not Abraham Lincoln. I'm sorry to tell you. You lost that debate well and truly.
You were biased, had a biased judge.
But basically, a new website has popped up, which has the excerpt from a tell-all book from the supposed Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah, so it's a 21-page excerpt, and it basically goes through and kind of says, I'm going to be releasing a book. It's going to tell you a lot of personal details about me. It's kind of like an interesting kind of I didn't actually read it, but I read like a couple of articles kind of going through whether it's actually accurate and things like that. And he provides this person provides a few personal details about his family, about the people he's worked with on Bitcoin and things like that. But a couple of the interesting things were he said that he may not release the book at all, that the expert may just be it, but if he is going to release the book, it will be on the website within about a month. But the funny thing was, Craig Wright.
Oh, we know Craig Wright.
Yeah, so he kind of went into a bit of a Twitter meltdown after the book. Saying
Craig Wright? That seems so uncharacteristic.
Yeah, so we can link this on the show notes page, but he sent quite a few tweets saying that a lot of the factual details were wrong and that this person isn't who he says he is and all of these kind of things. So it's definitely worth reading a couple of his tweets. And they were linked in quite a few different articles as well, being like, Craig Wright is not happy.
Noted crazy person, Craig Wright.
It's quite funny reading his tweets.
What evidence do we have? Do we know that it is him? Or like that,
Satoshi or Craig Wright?
Satoshi.
Well, no evidence so far. But basically there's no evidence so far. But it hasn't completely been debunked either. He's provided a couple of the things that he mentioned in the book was that the blockchain wasn't originally called the blockchain. It was called something else. There's a couple of different things that he's going through and he went through how people were trying to work out who he was based on the timestamps of messages that he sent on the original Bitcoin forums. So he was going through talking about those, saying how people were trying to find his identity based on the timestamps. So he was talking about that as well. So he is providing a lot of evidence, but people who are discussing the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto are basically saying there will be no hard evidence unless this person comes out and makes a transaction using the original Bitcoin keys. Anyone who can't do that isn't this person.
Oh, wow. So that's the final verifiable proof.
Which I think is pretty,
but what if
you can't do that?
Yeah, what if he doesn't want to, though? That's the thing is
then why is he writing a tell-all book?
He could still maintain his anonymity to a point, one would think. Although I think the real proof is if he says things only Satoshi Nakamoto could know, that his middle name is Greg, right? Only Satoshi could possibly know that.
But then nobody could check. So anybody, nobody could check.
I don't follow.
Well, if only Satoshi Nakamoto could know that his middle name is Greg and he says my middle name is Greg, but no one can verify that that's true because no one else can know it. So that wouldn't really prove anything.
No, still don't follow you. Graham, only Satoshi Nakamoto could know that. So if he says, hey, my middle name's Greg, that's the definitive proof.
Okay, no.
But yeah, so
who else could possibly know that, Graham?
we need somebody else to. We need two keys, Adam. Two keys. You need a private key and a public key. Anyway.
Yeah, so I still don't follow your logic.
Okay.
Mine, meanwhile, is impenetrable.
Sorry, Liz, we kind of took over your.
That's fine. Obviously, it was a very important argument.
My cryptocurrency this week is not really a cryptocurrency story. It's more like an interesting site that I found, which is deadcoins.com, which is where cryptocurrency goes to die. So this is a website. It's a kind of curated list. It's a bit of a wiki kind of thing of various different coins that have ceased to exist for various different reasons. It's divided up into 4 different sections. So we have flat out deceased coins, of which there's 635.
Wow.
Which includes a lot of kind of failed ICOs, which includes coins where the communication channels and social channels for the coins have completely shut down. There's no responses and they've closed the doors. That's the kind of bulk of it. It includes ones categorized as hacked coins, where the blockchains were distributing malware or hacking into people's computers. There's only 12 of those. It includes scam coins. There's 127 scam coins in the list. So these are essentially fake ICOs and Ponzi schemes.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised there aren't more.
Yeah.
115 of those were mine.
You get your work done quite effectively there, Adam.
Yeah.
So how many of the 115 of these in this list are yours? So how many haven't yet been detected? Your scam coins?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to clue you in on that because then I'll lose investors. But I will tell you a very sensitive secret, though. Satoshi Nakamoto. His middle name, Greg.
How would you know that, though?
How would I know that?
My favorite category, though, is the 55 parody coins that are listed on the site. Surprisingly, Dogecoin is not listed here because it's, even though it's a parody coin, it's an actual verifiable coin. But in the list of go on.
Kanye West.
That's really good. I like that.
Was it on
Kanye West?
That was a real.
Did not notice that.
That was a real thing. And
Did not notice that.
They got sued by Kanye.
There are some silly names on there, though. So on the list of parody coins, we have Troll Coin, which is fairly straightforward. We have Sex Coin, which I don't know what you'd use that for. I don't know how Pornhub haven't got onto that one, that they have the other two, Virgin, whatever it was from last week. You have... Now, I don't know how to pronounce this. It's Cthulhu, Cthulhu coin.
Cthulhu coin.
Which is,
dedicated to Cthulhu.
Would be impossible to use as a currency because nobody could pronounce Cthulhu coin.
Yeah.
That's the guy with the tentacles.
That's right, yeah.
You have Jesus coin. And you have my favourite of all the parody coins, ass pennies. Which is just too embarrassing to have any amount of ass pennies in your crypto wallet.
Can you imagine if that became the transactional cryptocurrency? It's like...
Have you got any ass pennies?
and in the future, basically, like, that's what everyone has to pay with. Like,
that'd be great.
That'll be 6 ass pennies, please. Like, God damn it. I wish we hadn't chosen this as a transactional currency.
That's it. Deadcoins.com. Check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sounds like a fun one. All right, so that'll do it for your weekly dose of idiocy. What am I talking about? We've got at least like 20 more minutes of idiocy.
Yeah, Adam's still here.
That's right. Yeah, I haven't gone anywhere. So up next, we're going to have a little chat about how all our crypto has been doing. Speaking of idiocy, it's Are You Broke Yet? So Liz, you've been gone for a little while. Are you broke yet?
Well, I actually had to ask Richard when I came back. I was like, so am I broke yet? Apparently I was broke for a little bit because crypto wasn't doing so well.
Oh boy, it took a beating.
Yeah, so apparently it went down quite a bit while I was gone. So I was checking it and it's creeped back up. So my Ripple has crept back up a little bit, but it's still not up to where I bought it. So I'm still about $10 down. But I was, according to Richard, and I completely blame him and not the market, about $20 down from where I originally bought it. So it's coming back up slowly.
Yeah. Crypto's rebounded very strongly. Like Bitcoin fell, below 6,000 at one point?
Yeah.
And it's creeping up around 7,000 now. So, it's come back really strongly. For me, my Monero, I had the similar kind of roller coaster ride where it got, I bought $100 worth. It got down to 91 at one point. Currently, I'm seeing $106.40. So,
so you're up.
I'm up
640. Okay,
yeah,
I think you're the only one who's up.
Which, if as we've learned about me, if this were a slot machine, I'd cash out right now. So yeah.
Unless it was the Ghostbusters slot machine.
Unless it was a Ghostbusters.
You'd have a lot more in it.
I'd ride that pony till it broke. But yeah, so I'm not sure exactly like what's kind of changed in market sentiment to push cryptos back up, but it's they've had quite the rally.
Yeah, just thinking about this is one there. Ripple was kind of interesting. I was reading about Ripple during the week where they unlike currencies where the coins are mined and kind of released, there's a set amount of Ripple. There always was in the beginning, and the company that runs Ripple kept 80% of the coins that were available for themselves at the beginning, and they're increasingly dishing them out to charities and such.
I read that
for promotion, including the TV.
Ashton Kutcher.
Not let his name not be mentioned again on this podcast.
The Crypto Messiah,
because we mentioned him every single Ashton Kutcher. Yes,
Crypto
Messiah. He's great.
Yeah, he's the Crypto Messiah. Yeah, I actually read that same article that basically the problem Ripple is having is that people trade Ripple a lot, but they don't transact.
Yeah, it was exactly the article.
And that's the issue, is that it was meant to be a transactional coin. And so the idea is like, how do you get people to transact it? Just give it away. Just give people a bunch of Ripple. And so that's what they've been doing. It's just splashing it out to try and encourage adoption as a transactional currency.
And it means that if they're keeping 80% of all the possible ripple that exists, they can basically control the price. Like a company who can just release more shares, you know what I mean? And
that's
so
that's one of the criticisms I think with Ripple is that it's not a decentralized currency.
Yeah.
Ripple still has control of the flow of supply.
So it's a bit of an odd one. My Cardano is doing better than it was last week. So it knocked down to about 70 Australian dollars last week, starting from 100. Bit of a rally. It's back up to, I think it's 85 now. So it's recovered slightly. Still fairly off the 100 when it started, yeah.
So far, the strategy of getting behind criminal enterprise is paying off. so far Monero has been the very good bet.
So far, I think do we have 1 week left? Is this the third week? Or is
I believe it is.
This is the third week, so 1 week left.
Yeah, so, and the thing is, a week in cryptocurrency, it's anybody's ball game.
Yeah.
Like anyone could come out on top of this. Like I could be broke next week.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Of course. Well, you're always hoping for any kind of like pain or misery.
Yeah.
That's
why I'm constantly pushing you down the stairs.
Yep.
But if you're still at 106, man, drinks on you. Drinks on you next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, so you have no idea. You just have no idea how the next week is going to go. Like I mean, I've fluctuated like $20 within a couple days on this thing. So
that's why I don't like looking at it like too often.
Yeah, it gets.
It's emotional.
It is. It's emotionally draining. So, look, we'll see next week. But I'm a big believer that crime pays, and that I'm going to come out on top. And then we're going to use those earnings to build a crew and rob space. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. For our Decrypted segment this week, wherein we do a little experiment, a little competition, or maybe just see some fun things that you can do with cryptocurrency, we decided to look into some of the dumber things that you can buy with Bitcoin. And boy, oh boy, we were not disappointed because you can buy some dumb stuff, which is right up our alley because, we're pretty dumb people and we like to make poor life decisions. So, Liz, what did you find?
I found some really good stuff. Okay, I'll start with the least weird thing, but something that I thought was quite cool. So if you're in places like Argentina and Hungary, you can actually pay for a cab in Bitcoin. So if you're like, if you've run out of fiat currency, you can just log into your Bitcoin, like you can use your Bitcoin wallet and actually like, it has like a little Bitcoin symbol and like everything in the back of the cab. I thought that was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering like a lot of like cabs are like just got like contactless in Australia. So I thought that was cool. The second coolest thing I found, and I'll hold this up so that the viewers can see it, was a Doge jumper.
Oh, that's too awesome.
That is phenomenal.
That is awesome.
So if you're not watching and you're just listening to this podcast, it's basically a jumper that just has that Doge face like pretty much all over it. And I'm considering purchasing this.
Okay, that needs to be the podcast uniform. We need to be all wearing that the next podcast. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, I really, really want to buy it.
Use your Ripple to buy that.
Can you only buy it with Dogecoin though?
I'm actually not too sure. You can go on to belovedshirts.com and check it out and see if you can buy it with other cryptocurrencies if you want to. I'm sure we can add the link to the show notes page. But the coolest thing I found that you can actually purchase with Bitcoin was a literal goat. You can buy a goat with Bitcoin.
I thought there was going to be like a follow-up to that, like a literal goat.
It's a goat.
That's it.
So
end of sentence.
So it ships worldwide.
The goat or the goat or the Dogecoin shirt?
The goat ships worldwide.
The goat. I don't know if it's like any goat or if it's the goat in this picture.
Oh, it is the actual
that
goat.
Specific goat. You buy it and the farmer's like, all right, start walking.
It's only this one goat. So it's on a site called Bitmit, but there's other categories that I don't know if they all accept Bitcoin, but the other categories are like dogs, fish, and miscellaneous.
Just random animal. I love the way the full description of that is just goat.
I No.
That's just
I wonder
you know what you're getting.
Exactly. There's no veneer on that. Like,
Oh man.
well, goddamn, they delivered what they promised. It's a goat.
To tell you the best part about the description of this goat. It's like condition new.
Oh, jeez. I don't even want to think about the implications of a used goat.
Not a used goat. No. Is it not a refurbished goat either? Factory fresh.
Oh, new in box.
Box fresh goat. Yeah.
That's right. Oh man! All right. Well, one of the things I came up with was lap dances. You can buy lap dances with Bitcoin. There's a gentleman's club in Las Vegas known as the Legends Room. Bitcoin will take anything on the Bittrex exchange as a payment for everything that they have on offer. That could be
everything.
Everything. That could be goats. They've got goats.
Nice.
So are they new or are they?
Yeah.
No, these are gently used.
Gently used. Okay.
As new. But that includes lap dances. But it's like, how do you make it rain? Like, how do you make it rain with Bitcoin? That's the thing. Like, if you're like, I mean, you just take out your phone. Like,
that'd be cool if you had like an app that you do like the making it rain motion, and it like just has like
and
a
it
motion.
starts spending Bitcoin as you do that.
that would
Like,
be
as
so
you
cool.
swipe faster, it spends more Bitcoin.
That'd be amazing.
There you go. There's our app. Make it the Make It Rain Bitcoin app.
Amazing.
Graham, what have you got?
I picked three here, right? And these basically tell the story of a potentially unsuccessful night out. The first thing you can buy with Bitcoin, I think you guys know this because you've done it already, is beer. And this is actually in Sydney. The old Fitzroy Hotel in Sydney have been accepting Bitcoin for beers since 2013. So you can start your night off there with a few tasty schooners in the old Fitzroy. And then you can shift over to the US, where in the Central Texas Gunworks, you can buy firearms.
Really?
With your Bitcoin.
Oh my gosh.
Having had your beers. Which doesn't sound like the best of an idea.
No.
Of course it's in Texas. I mean, where else? And then once you have that, the final thing you can use to pay, you can use your cryptocurrency to pay for is funerals.
Oh my goodness.
When everything goes horribly awry.
Yeah, with your beer and your guns. This is in Minnesota.
The goat's involved somehow.
There's a funeral home in Minnesota. Yeah, they allow you to pay for funerals and coffins and stuff with cryptocurrency.
Wow.
So there's your final night out, potentially.
Here's another thing I found is 30-day supply of emergency rations. Right, it's a bucket full of breakfast, lunch, and dinners for 30 days.
See, presumably, if it gets to the stage in the world where you need that, I mean, all the computer networks will be down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is what we've talked about many times before. As Mark Toronto and I were, I would say, apocalypse aficionados. Hopeful for the apocalypse that we would hopeful because
literally hopeful.
Yeah, because who doesn't want to see that happen? You know,
of course. They already had their outfits planned.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the standard outfit.
Is it the Doge? Is it the Doge top? Is
that'd be a good one.
You can bring a new goat.
It's the standard outfit of basically you need to look like an extra in a Twisted Sister video. So that means you've got to have like a pair of fur underwear.
Fur boots with the fur.
Yeah, the boots with fur. No, you've got to have fur underwear. You've got to have
fur underwear.
Lace up combat
I just imagine
boots.
that wouldn't be very easy to clean.
Well, it's the apocalypse. Nothing's easy to clean.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's dirty.
It's going to be very scary.
You've got to have
the
a hockey
apocalypse,
mask.
and you're going to be wearing fur underwear.
That's the point. You meant to terrify people.
Exactly, because
this is right there.
This is the idea behind this. That you've got your hockey mask, you've got your fur underwear, you've got your spiked shoulder pads, and as we've spoken about many times before on this many times before on this podcast, if I don't care how much Bitcoin you have, you see a guy dressed like that, you're going to give him everything you own because you will naturally assume that guy's in charge.
Yeah, I mean, it must be. Look at this guy. It must be the apocalypse. What else explains it?
Exactly, and you look at him, you're like, well, this guy's prepared. Jesus Christ, this guy's prepared. He's got a dune buggy. He's got a PA system on the dune buggy. Like he's telling people what to do. Whatever I have, it's his. So there you go. You've got a 30-day supply of emergency rations to offer as tribute to Lord Humongous, or as he was known in pre-apocalypse times, Adam Smith.
Oh, God.
Anything else, guys?
No,
Any other dumb things you can buy?
No.
I'm sure that there's plenty of other dumb things you can buy.
Yeah. If you've come across anything, let us know. You can tweet at us.
Well, one thing we found here in Sydney is beekeeping supplies.
Yeah. That was
There's
quite
a
odd.
beekeeping supply store that accepts Bitcoin, and we were sorely disappointed to find that you could not buy bees.
Yeah,
with
that was
it.
upsetting.
Because I wanted to go and see if we could purchase a single bee. You know, just like put in a matchbox for us. Like, I don't, like I'm not into, I just want to keep this one bee. Like, let's start small. Like, I don't want to get overwhelmed. I'm just seeing if this is a hobby I would like to get into.
Testing the waters.
So yeah, exactly. Like, so I don't want to jump into this and then decide it's not for me after I've got all this equipment. So let me just start with one bee. You put them in here. I'll take them home. I'll keep them, and then I'll see how I feel. Maybe I'll come back for another. So, and you can use Bitcoin for that.
That's
for the
amazing.
one bee.
Yeah. So what's the minimum number of bees you can buy?
Well,
Or do you have to buy a whole hive?
They didn't sell bees.
Does it start
at
with the
all.
queen? Oh,
They didn't sell bees at all. They
Where
only
do you get
sold
your
the
bees then?
Queen.
I need to find out.
Exactly. Where do you get the bees?
Yeah.
Where do you
What's
get
the point
bees?
of having all this infrastructure? Or is it built that they will come? Is that the kind of situation with the bees?
I think it is that if you build a nice enough home for them, they'll just come.
No,
But
okay.
I think they would feel more comfortable if they saw that there was a bee already there.
This is true, yeah.
Like my single bee that I bought, they, put him in one of these hives, and other bees would be like, well, that guy seems to like it. Like, let's see.
You could always try a fake bee like that. You heard about the story recently with the there's a specific breed of bird, and it was the loneliest of this breed of Nigel, I think was his name or something. That basically I'm saying this with no information except for what's vaguely in my head. But they were trying to attract this species of bird to a remote island, and so they built some fake birds and kind of put them around, hoping that they would attract the birds. Then only one ever landed. I think his name was Nigel, and he ended up
they
living
ask
there
him?
for a couple of years and kept trying to attract and mate with the fake birds that were on the island.
Oh, that's so
until finally he
sad.
died. That's a very sad
Why
story.
would you tell me
To
that?
end the podcast with.
Well, let's-
for
look,
the
let's-
rest of the day.
You
I
can
know.
try the bee equivalent of that, but maybe the
Oh
world doesn't
my-
need the sorrow.
Well, I
What a
think actually
nightmare.
the bee, when the other bees moved in, would be kind of pissed off because he had this whole place to himself. He's like, he moved in. He's like, this is a mansion. My goodness, I have never had this much space to myself before. And then like 5 million other bees move in. It's like, God damn it. Just back where I started.
But at least he gets to pick the room. No, what would you?
I don't know. Do they have individual
honeycomb bit.
chambers?
Yeah, chamber, best chamber in the house. I'm not quite sure.
I suppose, but he used to have
right
his
next to the
pick.
queen.
He used to have his pick. And now there's all these other bees
Yeah.
horning in on his territory.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so there you go. Our advice to you
On This Nature podcast.
on this, on our cryptocurrency podcast, if you take anything away from this, and remember, it's general advice only, is if you want to get into beekeeping, start with one and work your way up. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to HODL That Thought. We'll be back next week if cryptocurrencies are still a thing. And make sure you head over to finder.com/HODL-that-thought to find the show notes for this episode and more great episodes. We're focused on providing information and entertainment. We're not a securities dealer and we're not encouraging you to trade. Cryptocurrencies are volatile and unpredictable, so get advice rather than acting on anything we say. Read our disclaimer, understand our approach, and then sit back and enjoy our podcast. You might learn something. Stranger things have happened.